you eat meat, you may be denied the right to buy a home.
We are not being Muslims, so this is what we have done from our side to keep one community out, which normally create problem for.
It doesn't matter how much money you have or what you do for a living. In the Indian real estate industry, your identity is limited to your caste, your religion, and your food habits.
We don't give flats to Muslims.
मोस्टली कैसा देख रहे हैं तो ड्रिंक वगैरह नॉनवेज वगैरह वैसा जरा कम चाहिए.
Our constitution guarantees to each of us the right to equality, a fundamental right that is being violated brazenly by the real estate industry. That is the ugly truth Mirror Now reporters uncovered when they went shopping posing as home buyers. Our discovery shocked us.
एक मुस्लिम फ्रेंड मेरा खुद का था, ये पेंट हाउस देख रहा था 26-27 करोड़ का, वो जनवरी में था, तो उनको हम लोग ने स्टॉल पे रखा है.
Someone is coming, then we straight away say that there are no flats in there.
Cosmopolitan नहीं, गुजराती मारवाड़ी है.
Most of India's respected real estate names pick and choose home buyers to create communities that are entirely Gujarati, Marwadi and Jains, effectively using food habits to create a modern-day caste system.
एक मुस्लिम फ्रेंड मेरा खुद का था, ये हाउस का वो पेंट हाउस देख रहा था 26-27 करोड़ का, वो जनवरी में था, तो उनको हम लोग ने स्टॉल पे रखा है. उनको बोला नहीं कि हाँ कुछ भी जो भी, मैंने उनको बोला कि एक्टिविटी आ रहे उसके बाद आपको मैं बता दूँ बेस्ट पॉसिबल प्राइसेस देता हूँ क्या करता हूँ, क्योंकि मुस्लिम्स को हम लोग केटर नहीं कर सकते.
These developers are violating our fundamental rights by creating segregated, gated communities. They're also in violation of Article 15 of our Constitution. Mirror Now demands that the government take notice of this social injustice and not only frame laws that prevent discrimination in housing, but also take action against those who insist on shutting their doors on the citizens of India. With Aishwarya Paliwal and Disha Shah, Viren Ferrao, Mirror Now.
Welcome to the Urban Debate. You're watching Mirror Now, and this is a conversation we absolutely must have. A lot of people will turn around and say this is how life works. This is how things are. But if we must progress as a society and as a country, we must address what we believe is wrong with our society. And I personally believe this is one of the things that's terribly wrong with our society. Creating silos, buildings, gated communities that shut out different people, and making sure that we only live with those people who match our thought process, our food habits and our religious beliefs will make this country into tiny pockets of hate. The question that we're asking tonight is very, very simple. We know that developers are discriminating. We have evidence that I will play for you through the course of this show that shows you how blatantly they're discriminating. Is there a law that we can reach out to, that we can use right now to defend our rights at this point, to make sure that if you have the money to buy a home, money that you have earned after paying your taxes through legal means, should anyone be able to turn you down? That's the question we're asking, and our phone lines are open. We're going to be patching in callers from the beginning of the show tonight. But joining me on the show, Aijaz Ilmi, National Spokesperson of the BJP. Shehzaad Poonawala is the Secretary of the Maharashtra Congress. Swapnil Kothari, Senior Lawyer, Mumbai. Anand Patwardhan, Ex-President of the Consumer Court Bar Association. Naveen Chomal, also Senior Advocate. So is Sujay Kantawala. Rajan Bandelkar, Vice President of West at NAREDCO. And B. Panna is a Transgender Activist. I welcome all of you to this conversation. I'm going to open up the floor right now to everybody to tell me if you believe that developers should be allowed to discriminate in this manner. I want to tell you the kind of things that our reporters were told. We will never allow a non-vegetarian into this building. Our developer has only sold these apartments to his friends and family to ensure that there is only members of the Jain community in this building. We will never allow a Muslim into this building, and I'll play you all of that evidence. But first, I want opening statements from each of our panelists. I will start with Aijaz Ilmi of the BJP. Do you believe that this sort of discrimination should be allowed?
Well, this kind of discrimination prevails for a very, very long time. And there's a very interesting case in the Supreme Court of the Parsi Housing Society in 2005, where Soli Sorabji argued under Article 19(1)(c) that as per the bylaws of a society, and if the Parsi community does not wish to allow somebody else to buy a property in that, the rule, you cannot trust upon a society if they're not willing to admit somebody else from another persuasion of faith or belief. So we have these examples. Also, the highest court of the land has given a judgment in something similar. But yes, this discrimination is something that has to be fought against. We need to be more open. We need to be more open-minded. But whether it's meat, whether it's region, religion, caste, community, minorities, such things are relevant and rampant, and they continue as long as people themselves are not willing to change themselves.
But as a member of the party that is currently making laws in our country, Aijaz Ilmi, do you believe that there should be a clear law frame preventing developers from discriminating against anyone based on caste, creed, religion, sexual preferences or food habits?
You know, there is a law against discrimination, and you also have new laws coming up. But the fact is that a large number of people want to stay with people of the similar persuasion, belief, or habits or culture. It's something that's ingrained over the years. So you can't thrust upon anybody somebody else's belief, and if they want to retain their own affinity towards the people of their own community, whether it's caste-wise, habit-wise, culture-wise, religion-wise, then also the government cannot be in the business of forcing people to not follow their own cultures.
Well, I want to play out this clip, after which I will come to the lawyers on the panel. This is clip number 5. I want my team to play it out for you. I want you to listen to what these sales executives are saying right now, obviously instructed by the developers who are building these buildings. And I want you to then tell me, legally or otherwise, if this sort of thing should be allowed. Let's play clip number 5, please.
We are not dealing Muslims, so this is what we have done from our side to keep one community out, which normally create problem for the state. By doing that, we are keeping one community out. We are allowing many communities to come in, like those who are professionals from different backgrounds. Whose source of income is more. There is more banking is on the bank. उनके लिए काफी अच्छा बना.
Swapnil Kothari, that clip very carefully, very clearly said that we keep one community out. By keeping one community out, we are able to bring in other people who are better sources of income. What is your reaction to that?
It's absolutely discriminatory. This is, violative of Section 22 and 23 of the Maharashtra Cooperative Societies Act, which is an open inclusion where you have to include communities from, different communities as members. So that is one aspect which has been flagrantly violated here, and one of the judgments which was pointed out by one of the other panelists about 2005 Supreme Court, but there have been several judgments of the high courts thereafter which have struck down these kind of rules as discriminatory and violative of the principle of equality under the Constitution. And one of the most important things that if you deny a non-vegetarian membership into the society, then that is a violation of the right to privacy, because what one eats within the four walls is his business or her business and nobody else's. So as Faye, you rightly pointed out that there has to be a law. The fact that dowry practices are still prevalent doesn't mean that the legislature did not enact the Dowry Prohibition Act 1961. It did. And likewise, the RERA must include a provision to that effect, that no developer shall deny membership to any member on the basis of his community, caste, creed or religion, lest he or she invite criminal prosecution under 153 and 295A of the IPC, which I will touch upon later.
Well, let me tell you this. You have to see what is discrimination and what is preference. What is the concept of a cooperative housing society? Every housing society has its right to frame its own bylaws. Then you also have the concept and you see Anjuman Islam School, you see Parsi Gymkhana, you see Islam Gymkhana, you see all these things that are happening. So what I'm trying to say is this, that you have to give importance to certain people's preferences. And,
so here's my question. Let me counter you on that one. Sujay. You're saying that people should be allowed to choose their preferences But if the preference is to leave out one community, he said very clearly there is one community that we make sure does not enter this building. That is not a preference. That is discrimination against one set of people.
No, I will not go on the religious part of it. I'll go on this.
But we must address it. We must address it.
Let me tell you this.
May I answer that?
If 29% of the people are vegetarians in this country and 71% and 71% are meat eaters, then we vegetarians are in the minority in that sense. And let me tell you one more thing. If there is a building constructed only for Jains on Nepean Sea Road and Malabar Hill, then non-Jains are not entertained. And we all know that. So we will not go to that building. I don't want to go to that building. I have preference of other buildings.
Where do you stand, Shehzaad Poonawala? Where do you stand? Is this what it is that every minority, and I want to place this before the panel. If we start slicing the country down with every minority, there is no limit to the number of slices we can make of this country. What will we have left? Shehzaad Poonawala.
So as not just a political activist, but as somebody who's fought the first case in this regard in the No Muslim ad case in 99 acres in 2013, and also for a transgender person who was evicted from a house in Mumbai, I have some legal experience on this front. So let me put out what is allowed and what isn't allowed. India is a signatory to the international, United Nations International Covenant on Social, Economic and Cultural Rights, and that mandates our state to ensure that citizens get discrimination-free housing. It's also a part of our constitutional framework under Article 14 and 15. And apart from that, there are various provisions in the IPC Act, probably in the Consumer Protection Law and RERA as well. So it is true that preferences and preferential treatment to the effect to say that only Parsis will stay in this building may actually circumvent the law and may be allowed. But to say that anybody except Muslims will stay or anybody except Brahmins can stay in that building, that treads into discrimination. And let me give you a couple of experiences as to how other countries dealt with it. I think it's time that not just these laws which I mentioned, but we need a specific legislation which translates our fundamental rights into enforceable rights. What the Americans did in the 1960s, there was a lot of discrimination against blacks.
And therefore there was blockbusting,
there were other practices that
is against the state.
Right now in this regard, they're not completely enforceable.
Therefore, not against a private person. I can't be forced to sell my flat to a person. I don't want to sell them my flat.
Can I please complete, ma'am?
Against private citizens.
Can I please complete? I didn't think this was one of those channels. Please show the courtesy.
Okay, let
Can I have the courtesy to complete my point?
Finish your point.
I don't interrupt anybody. I'd really appreciate if you'd hear me out. Yeah. So in South Africa, there was the apartheid, and in America, there was discrimination against the black community.
Be specific to this particular case.
Yes, I am.
World laws.
Yes, I am giving you
the examples from here. They are not relevant.
And you'll find something else then.
Can I please make my point without being discriminated and without being interrupted completely?
No,
Can I please make my point?
Sir.
Educate us on the igloo.
Can we at least, yes, let me make my point. Don't be a moral science teacher, sir. Yeah. So in America, just like there was discrimination against certain communities, now those could have been racial minorities, those could have been sexual minorities, those could have been other kinds of minorities. There was a law brought in specifically, which was called the Fair Housing Legislation Law, and we need a similar fair housing legislation, we need a legislation which not only mandates
the state was the party in funding of it.
Be made on various grounds, but also will also subsidize and promote inclusive cosmopolitan settings. So if somebody is promoting plural housing, he should be given tax rebates, he should be given subsidies that promotes the idea of cosmopolitan living.
So, I want to buy a house in Kochrubag.
Yeah.
I am also from Gujarat. Parsis are also from Gujarat. Why I am not getting a house in Kochrubag?
Okay.
I'm being discriminated against.
All right. Okay. Let me bring in Rajan Bandelkar. Rajan Bandelkar is a developer here. Rajan Bandelkar, why do developers discriminate? Because we have heard very clearly people telling us that it's good for business. It's good for business to make a building that is purely either vegetarian, which equals to purely Gujarati, Marwadi, Jain. Why does that happen, Rajan Bandelkar?
See, it is not only in building, See, first foremost, in RERA, they are already clearly mentioned that you can't discriminate.
Nobody's following that rule.
So if the developers are discriminating, it is wrong. But as a business, as a business, if you see, you go in Bendi Bazaar, there are majority of Muslims. So which area where the majority people are there, the buyers are majority. So in Gujarati area or Jain community, who are eating
what do you, Rajan Bandelkar? What do you qualify as a Gujarati area? Most of Mumbai, most of Pune, most of Bangalore, most of Delhi. What do you qualify as a Gujarati area? Please tell me. Let me tell you. I will tell you now that we went to almost all of the buildings here in central Mumbai, and none of them, very few of them will actually allow somebody from a different community. What is a Gujarati area, please tell me, other than Gujarat itself? Why do we have Gujarati areas inside of our cities? How did this happen? Why is there a Marwadi area inside of Delhi?
In Gujarat also other people are there. See, it's a community. So you try and understand. If you see in Bandra also, there is Catholic society where only Catholic people are allowed.
It's exactly my point. I think it's a terribly wrong thing to do. By the way, let me put this on record. You know, everybody on this panel comes in and flings this at me that, oh, in Bandra, all Catholic people are allowed. Let me put it on record that I don't believe that that is right either. I don't think any sort of silos is good for our society.
Absolutely.
Because when we start like this, then we'll start leaving out the transgenders. We'll start leaving out the LGBT community, which is already happening. We start leaving out people from the media. We start leaving out single women. We start leaving out live-in couples. Who's left? Tell me who's left, Rajan Bandelkar. I want to bring in, I want to play this clip to you. This is clip number 7. And I want our audience to just feel how atrocious this has become. You start off saying, no, we're all a good community, we all want to live together. Listen to how atrocious and unacceptable this sort of discrimination has become. And these are top national developers you see on the front page of your newspaper every morning, pretending to be all good. This is what they're actually doing. Play that clip.
Muslims? You don't allow Muslims? Because हमारा दुबई में एक नेबर है जो 1 year down the line maybe they'll plan to settle here in Mumbai, पर उन लोग मुस्लिम्स हैं
तो दूसरी जगह दे देंगे।
अच्छा, बट यहाँ पे नहीं,
उनको आपके साथ में ही लेना।
हाँ, बिकॉज क्लोज है ना काफ़ी, मतलब
तो नेबर हो जाएंगे ना, साइड में फ्रंट में बिल्डिंग में किसी ले लेंगे।
आप ही का है?
नहीं, हमारा नहीं है, मैं काफ़ी सारे प्रोजेक्ट्स में आपका करवा सकता हूँ।
एक मुस्लिम फ्रेंड मेरा खुद का था, ये टावर्स का वो पेंट हाउस देखा था 26-27 करोड़ का, वो जनवरी में था। तो उनको हम लोग ने स्टॉल पे रखा है अभी। उनको बोला नहीं कि हाँ कुछ भी जो भी, मैंने उनको बोला कि एक्टिवेशन आ रहा है, उसके बाद आपको मैं बता दूँ बेस्ट पॉसिबल प्राइसेस देकर क्या करता हूँ, क्योंकि मुस्लिम्स को हम लोग केटर नहीं कर सकते।
That was a building that is selling homes at 27 crore rupees. 27 crore rupees, which means that if you have 27 crore rupees to buy a home, that's not good enough. They will not sell it to you if you are not a Muslim. Now tell me with your hands on your heart, gentlemen, that this is preference, that this is not discrimination, that this sort of thing should be allowed. Anand Patwardhan.
Well, I have a lot of money. Can you sell the Raj Bhavan to me?
That's a ridiculous argument. The Raj
It starts from there. There is discrimination. There are only few select people who are allowed to stay there. I should be given a right to stay there. I have the money. I think that kind of an answer, I have money, cannot be an answer.
The Raj Bhavan is not for sale. There is not a front page ad in the Times of India offering the Raj Bhavan to the highest bidder.
I can afford. That's the question.
To compare a commercial property to a Raj Bhavan is absolutely ridiculous.
Let's not go into that aspect.
It's not for sale.
The question over here is whether this thing is out for sale. If you are at that particular point, I think even if you go to a vegetable vendor and ask him, I want to buy this for a certain price, itne pe dete ho kya, he can very well say, I don't want to sell.
What happens when the whole country says, I don't want to sell to you? Where will this person go? If people keep turning around and saying, I don't want to sell to you, I will not let you into my restaurant, I will not let you into my housing society, I will not sell vegetables to you. What sort of a country do we have? What sort of a country have we become? Be Panna, transgender activist, what sort of a country do we have?
Government who is constructing, they can very well have houses. It's not that
so
you have no house anywhere.
So you're telling me that if I'm a non-vegetarian, I have to go live in a Mada building? I have to go live in a Mada building. That's what you're saying to me, Anand Patwardhan?
That's what it is. When you are getting a house to sell, you don't want that kind of house which is being available to you in the open market and which is available to all kinds of community without discrimination. You don't want to go there, but you want to go into a building where people would prefer to remain vegetarian. And you want to get inside and say, no, I eat non-veg, so you all people must suffer the consequences. I want to eat non-veg. Why are you trying to force something on someone who would like to live that way? Our constitution does give right for people to form societies, because forming societies in their common interest, for furtherance of their common interest, that they form society, come together and prefer to stay in a building where we would all prefer to have vegetarian food. And eating non-veg, you can go anywhere else and eat non-veg. I was coming to my building and eat non-veg.
Not translate into illegality.
Aijaz Ilmi, do you actually believe this is truly secular? That if you want to eat non-vegetarian food, go live in a government building?
This is not permissible.
No, I believe the constitution is secular. Even Article 19(1), which talks about right to association and right to preference of promoting your own community or groups of community, is also part of that constitution. I mean, obviously, you can't support all these discriminatory practices. And even there are laws against it. You had a case of Happy Jeevan Society in Vasai 2 years ago, in fact 10 months ago, where people refused to sell. When somebody wanted to sell to a Muslim, the NOC was not given. There was a resolution by 9 members. So they went to jail, and there's a criminal case happening, 153A, 295A, all these were invoked. So there are laws in this country, but definitely there is an affinity of people who stay together. These things need to be thrashed out. Only evolved society which accepts these things over a course of time. So this is, I mean, right now, we've been having this for the last 30 years. It might continue for a long time, but as people realize that as a one nation, we should be receptive towards everybody else. It's going to take its own time, but you can't thrust anything down on people that you have to accept this. If somebody, a single bail is not wanted, then people also have choices. The right to choice to live with somebody or not live with somebody also has to be accepted in this country.
But Chittaranjan Park is a huge colony in Delhi only for Bengalis, and we all know that.
You keep citing more and more instances of discrimination to me. Let me be very clear. All of these instances are instances of discrimination as far as I'm concerned. I want to bring in B. Panna, who's a transgender activist. B. Panna, tell me this. How often is it that a transgender person is able to rent a house or buy a house?
नमस्ते पन्ना, मैं पन्ना बोल रही हूँ। तो हमारे पास पैसा होने के बाद घर भाड़ा को देता नहीं है, क्योंकि वो मोहल्ला में जो रहेंगे ये हिजड़ा है तो हमारी पूरा खराब कर देंगे हम पे। हमारे मोहल्ला में पूरा कोई बच्चा आपको देके बिगड़ जाएंगे। इसके प्रकार के हमको कोई घर भी नहीं देता, तो क्यों ऐसा क्यों? हम भी आपका है। तो मेरा कहने से मतलब है हमको भी छेड़छाड़ नहीं करना चाहिए, समाज में हमको एक रिस्पेक्ट मिलना चाहिए, इसके लिए मैं कह रही हूँ।
A very clear point. And that's a point, let me extend then to people of different religious communities.
May I
people, yes, people of different food habits, people of different sexual preferences. Shouldn't we all just simply get respect in society? Why is it that we believe one community is better than the other? Naveen Chomal.
See, that is not the case that one community is better than the other, but housing is a very important and a personal issue. And as Sujay rightly said, that each community has got right to come together, like-minded people to come together and live together. But when it comes to other issues, for example, traveling in train, working in offices, there is absolutely no scope for any discrimination or distinction between other people. So ultimately the question is that, see, you are trying to just treat the symptoms, but you are not trying to understand the disease and the main cause of it. So let us try to cure the disease. As what rightly yesterday said by Rahul Ishwar, that let us try to make the bridges between the two communities, let the people of like-minded come together and see that the differences are sorted out properly, and then it will be possible for them to live in some building together.
How will you sort out these differences?
Yeah, let us form some communities, some associations where people are together. Yes,
that's the question.
And
is that community respecting this community and their choice of being vegetarian?
Yes. No. The issue what you are raising, the very delicate issue you are raising about the Muslims, people are scared to give them. See, please, these are not my personal views. I am just showing the mirror of what is happening in the society. What is normally happening, as we are seeing in the many cases as lawyers, that in any building where Muslims are given houses, normally they are very aggressive, they pick up fights, they threaten that Hamar Daud se link and all this thing. So other members of the community are scared.
Naveen Chomal, are you telling me that every Muslim will pick a fight?
Not every.
Are you telling me that all Muslims are aggressive, which is incidental because you are normally the most aggressive person on all of my panels?
Am I saying that every Muslim is like that?
Yes, that's exactly what you're saying.
That happens. So
that is exactly what you're saying.
4 out of 10.
Naveen Chomal, generally you talk over everybody else in the panel. Shall we assume that your entire community is aggressive and disrespectful and bigoted?
I'm only getting some chance to interject or say something.
Let me give you one other example of Mayur Vihar, a huge colony in Delhi, which is only meant for lawyers and lawyers of all communities. See, the point that I'm trying to make over here is this. If people who are living together have common preferences, so they have a common profession, they have common preferences, they may be having common food habits, etc., etc., then it's all okay. So we have many such societies, but we also have certain buildings, certain societies where people would like to intermingle with people of their own faith. So what is wrong with that?
Okay, let me just bring this. I want to ask this question one more time. If there is a housing society that decides it doesn't want to bring people in, but a developer who is opening something up for sale to the general public, are they allowed to turn away people based on their religion? Milan is on the phone line from Goa. Milan, go ahead.
Yes, I must congratulate, first of all, your channel who has exposed these nefarious activities of the so-called builders in Mumbai, especially in Mumbai, Delhi and Calcutta. What is not in Goa? What is happening? These builders are discriminating the Muslims. It is a very bad sign for our country. We are a democratic society. We are a democratic country. Everybody has got right to stay, eat food. Everybody has got right. Why the discrimination? Because these builders want to make money out of Gujaratis. They have got a lot of money. These Muslims and other poor people cannot buy crores of rupees. They are charging for the building. I want to ask the government of Goa, especially Prime Minister, you are looking after everything. Look after this problem. What common people, they cannot buy a house in Mumbai, Delhi and Calcutta.
Yes. Rohit is on the phone line from New Delhi. Rohit, go ahead. Rohit, go ahead.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. My answer is in two parts. First of all, discrimination based on gender and especially caste or sexual preferences of anyone regarding LGBT community is absolutely horrendous, and gradually we should make raise awareness campaigns in public so that they can disown such habits. Now, part number two, regarding this Muslim issue. See, I am an atheist, but Hinduism is my civilization identity. We have already surrendered more than a half of our land in form of Pakistan to ISIS of medieval times, which I means Aurangzeb and the company. So how much more you want us to surrender? See, Hindus have a right to own our piece of land. This is the only home in our whole country. They are 50% of the world is Islamic. How much homes?
Okay, how much more do we want to surrender? This conversation is becoming increasingly distressing for me. Shehzaad Poonawala, interestingly, we are a country that celebrated a gentleman of Indian origin who became Prime Minister of Ireland, who's also openly gay, something that we're still not willing to accept in our own country.
Yeah. So, Faye, this problem, what you are demonstrating on your channel is actually, it's not a problem, it's a symptom. The problem actually is the mindset, which was shown by one of your panelists and even by the last caller. It's this prejudice and stereotype that gets furthered and symptomized in discrimination, discriminating against a community. And it's not just a Muslim issue. Let's not make this, I'm sure, where Muslims are in majority, they also discriminate against a minority Hindu community or another person. So this has to be, so how do we address this? Let's get to the solution. We need an affirmative law which says, everybody is making the argument that private property hai. Let me tell you very clearly, even if it is your private property, you are taking a meter of electricity connection, water connection, other facilities from the government, from the state. So therefore, you can't say that this is my private property, I will do whatever I want. I will discriminate against people.
Government is not giving free of cost.
Please,
so if the government is funding
patience.
Then of course there cannot be any choice.
Sir, let me complete my point, or I will have to assume your entire community is aggressive and keeps interjecting. I don't want to make that assumption that your entire community interjects. So please wait and let me make my point.
Please.
So my limited point
I didn't say the entire community. It was the frame who was trying to put words in my mouth.
Yes.
So ultimately, why are you deviating from the issue? Let us try to find the solution to what the actual problem is.
Can you please have some respect?
Okay, let's not waste any more of our audience's time bickering. Gentlemen, please calm down.
Can you please let me
Mr. Poonawala, finish your point. Naveen Chomal.
You have complained with me. It is again to the Joint Commission of Crime, Mumbai, dated 1st of February 2016. It is about how the particular one community, minority community, is making a SBUT program in heart of Mumbai city.
Extremely distressing that he can speak during his time, I can't speak during mine.
So they have exposed everything, how things are funded by Dawood Ibrahim.
What do you mean by mini Pakistan?
Yes.
What is a mini Pakistan, Naveen Chomal? Let's talk about this. Let's talk about this like mature adults. What is a mini Pakistan?
No, my forefathers rejected the actual Pakistan in 1947, and I will create a mini Pakistan in your country.
See what?
I mean, this is ridiculous.
Okay, hang on. Let's not get upset.
10 seconds now.
I think that the most important thing here is to talk about this calmly. Shehzaad, don't get upset. I want to understand from Mr. Naveen Chomal, what is a mini Pakistan, Naveen Chomal? Please tell me. Inside the heart of India, what is a mini Pakistan? Please explain.
Exactly. So this complaint has very categorically explained
who's written this
how
complaint?
the money
Who's written this complaint? Who's written
There is one lady called Priya Shahbaz Rathod. She is also from Muslim community only, and she has explained how the particular community has tried to snatch away the houses from the poor sections of the Muslim community, also Hindus also there, and only now the houses will be given to a particular community of the minority community, and how it is funded by
Has the police investigated that complaint? Has the police investigated that complaint, Naveen Chomal? Has the police investigated that?
Very much with the police.
Has the police investigated? Has the police filed a charge sheet, Advocate Naveen Chomal?
Certain complaints are with the RCF police station also.
You could write a complaint about anything. It only becomes real once the police does an investigation and files a charge sheet. What you are doing is flinging baseless allegations, Naveen Chomal. Bring me a charge sheet. Bring me an investigation. Bring me proof. Bring me proof. I'm bringing you proof. I've given you proof. You're not bringing me logic. You're flinging accusations. You could have written that.
No, it is not I who
you
have
haven't written that. Has there been an investigation? How do we know? Has there been an investigation?
I want a
Can we go on to something more important than this?
Aijaz Ilmi, this is the danger.
RCF police station has...
Is there an investigation? Please, you're not answering my question, Naveen Chomal. Aijaz Ilmi, for as long as there's no investigation and there's no charge sheet, I think this is the danger we face as a nation. Baseless allegations of mini Pakistans that cause and breed fear in this country.
There is inherent demonization and prejudice, and there's a fear of the unknown. So people have this affinity of wanting to stay with people of the same ilk, persuasion. In fact, that is the reality. The government cannot discriminate in terms of giving electricity, water, and these things. The government has to be there for everybody. It is people who discriminate. The government is not in a position to discriminate. Yes, if there's a law, let it be thrashed out. Let it be synchronized with relevant articles or right to equality and right to association. Let there be a discussion and debate on this country. But yes, there is inherent prejudice and demonization which stems from your personal beliefs. And there's fear of unknown. So people prefer to give it to a married couple, not a bachelor. A vegetarian or non-vegetarian. You go to Chennai, it depends whether you're a Brahmin or a Iyer or a Thevar. So these inherent contradictions are very much there. Not that they are correct, but it's a reality of life, as you said in the beginning of the show. And we have to acknowledge the fact that there has to be inherent, it has to come from within. Shehzaad talked about mindset. It's going to take quite some time, but the fact is, ultimately, we need to live together and work together, because nature doesn't discriminate. The government can't discriminate. It is we who discriminate against others, irrespective of...
Just like we have the prevention of... Just like we have
Don't we need the law? Don't we need the law to light the way? If the law had not lit the way for us, would we have banned any of the social evils? And I take this as a massive social injustice and a social evil. Would we have grown out of our bad habits? Would we have let go of the social evils of the past if the law had not forbidden them and led the way?
Swapnil Kothari. I agree with what
my question was
Ilmi has very rightly said.
My question was to Swapnil Kothari.
My
question was to Swapnil Kothari. Swapnil Kothari, please go ahead.
Okay. Well, Faye, there is an article in the Bombay Times itself on the first page today in the Bombay Times talking about this discrimination by the developers, denying rights to LGBT, to Muslims, to single people. So this topic is very, very important, and it's a definite social evil, just like sati or dowry. And it needs to be obliterated. First of all, it needs to be obliterated by the law. Then the mindset can take its own course. Now, one of the things that I would want to deal with, 2 points which have been raised so far. One of the points which was raised by Shehzaad was that because you have a private house, but you are getting electricity, water, etc. from the state, that does not, allow you to discriminate. But that's a little bit of a fallacious theory there, for the simple reason that I would rather stop the person from discriminating against me on the basis of Article 14, 15, and Article 21 about the right to privacy. And one of the important points is that these fundamental rights cannot be assailed, cannot be enforced against, only can be enforced against state discrimination, is a little bit fallacious, for the simple reason because a slew of judgments of the Supreme Court and the High Courts have extended it. The part that inclusion of membership, if a person does not include somebody as a member on the basis of these discriminatory practices, then that person can approach the registrar. The registrar, if the registrar then denies, then
I'm saying that
is
anybody
considered.
who presumes,
please let me finish. May I finish, please? Shehzaad, may I finish, please? Thank you so much.
Sure.
So then that registrar, if he denies, then that registrar being a quasi-judicial authority and is considered as a state, and that's where the fundamental rights can be enforced. Now, as far as this aspect, Faye, that you're pointing out about creating silos and ghettoization is extremely important, because if we do not nip this practice in the bud at the very inceptional stages itself, Bombay, Delhi, Madras, Calcutta are all cosmopolitan cities. Damn it, I mean, in these states, if we are going to have this kind of practices and this kind of petty mindset, I am not against the fact about vegetarian restaurants. You can have vegetarian restaurants, but because there is an ample choice of both vegetarian and non-vegetarian restaurants. But as far as housing is concerned, there are very, very limited opportunities that people have. So, and in fact, this is going to create more and more discrimination, and I do not know where it's going to stop. And as one of our panelists pointed out, that there is a fear of the unknown. That's why people make these kind of complaints. But this complaint which was pointed out by Mr. Chomal may be one of a complaint, but that does not mean that this practice is prevalent, where people from the minority community form a mini anti-state or something of that sort. I beg to disagree with you, Mr. Chomal, here.
Won't these mini anti-states, won't these mini anti-states
there is no such thing. It's a fear.
It's not fear.
If we segregate
is exposing
each
how
other.
the funding has been done.
Naveen Chomal, I'm dismissing that piece of paper you have, because there is no investigation conducted by the police on that complaint. When there is an investigation and a charge sheet, please come back to the show and present
what your clips are showing, no investigation has been done by the police, no charge sheet has been filed by the police.
I'm not giving you a piece of paper. I'm giving you videographic evidence. I'm giving you videographic evidence. I'm not holding up a piece of paper. Do you know what is on this piece of paper? That's not good enough for me on the show. I'm sorry. Mustafa is on the phone line from Mumbai. Mustafa, go ahead. Mustafa, go ahead.
Yes, ma'am. My question is to all the panelists, that to be honest, we all are discriminating.
Yes.
We all are discriminating. If you go to a Muslim area, then you have only Muslims there. If you go to any Gujarati area, only Gujarati there. So we all are to be blamed for this mindset.
Yes, Mustafa.
Now the question is, when India is a national republic, how are we going to address this issue? We all are to be blamed. Not only Gujaratis or Jains or Parsis or Christians, even Muslims. If you go to, I am a Muslim, I am telling you, I am living in a society which has got all Gujaratis, Sindhis, everybody. It's a cosmopolitan. But I know, if I go to South Bombay, I see only Muslims there. And my cousins, they say, no, this society is only for Muslims. Let us be honest, this discrimination is followed, the ghetto logic is followed by each and every one of the communities. It is not only Gujaratis or Jains, everybody needs to change the mindset.
My question here is, you make a very good point, Mustafa. We have to change our mindsets, because when we segregate each other, when we live in ghettos, when we live in segregated communities, mistrust and lack of understanding will keep growing among us. And we will create a country where none of us trusts the other, none of us gets to know each other, none of our children will grow up together. They will all play with what they call like-minded children in their little ghettos. They will never get to know each other, and we will never truly be one country. How are we ever going to be one country if we don't allow the other through the door?
But why don't you see it from this angle, that there are schools in which people from all communities go, there are clubs in which all communities go, our profession, our doctors, lawyers, chartered accountants, we do business in the same community. Why are you painting this picture of doomsday that we have to only live together next to each other for us to be secular and a bright future for this country? Why are you saying it like that? You look at the other part also, and this gentleman who called up, he accepted the fact that even in Muslim areas and Muslim buildings they do the discrimination. So it's not like that.
No, everybody is accepting that fact. Nobody is in denial.
Mr. Ilmi was very rightly saying.
The reason, please, sir, again you have interrupted me before.
Shehzaad, go ahead. Shehzaad, go ahead.
Please. Yeah. The reason why housing is important is because if we create separate enclaves and ghettos, it becomes easy to target other communities during riots. How many riots have taken place if only Muslims live in one ghetto and Hindus in another ghetto?
This itself is a divisive way in which you are talking. I completely condemn this.
Let me talk. Baba, let me at least complete. Why don't you interrupting, Baba? I don't understand this.
Swapnil, one second. Gentlemen. I think, hang on. Yeah, I realize that this is an emotional debate, but when we all jump down each other's throats, the audience cannot understand.
Mr. Ilmi was saying was very much right. That let us try to find out some ways of getting together. Let us form some...
Let me complete my point. You may think I'm completely wrong, but let me...
When we jump down each other's throats, I have a very basic problem. The audience cannot understand any of you and you are wasting my time. So please do not jump down each other's throats.
Exactly.
Let Mr. Poonawala finish his point and then I'll ask Mr. Ilmi to respond to him. Mr. Poonawala, go ahead.
There have been riots after riots where people, because they stay in these marked different ghettos, they get targeted. So therefore, it is necessary that we live inclusively. Therefore, just being inclusive in schools and on playgrounds is not enough. We have to be inclusive in our living. And therefore, right now, we don't have the right law to enforce our Article 14, Article 15, Article 21 against cooperative societies. Therefore, we need this affirmative legislation called the Fair Housing Law, which the government needs to bring in so that we can go to court if any
you've made
private
this point. We should have a fair housing law. Aijaz Ilmi,
or others.
My problem... That would be defeating the very concept of cooperative society. Then.
Exactly.
Aijaz Ilmi, go ahead.
And something which is not possible...
Can I say something?
Please go ahead.
Yes.
Shehzaad, you're turning the argument on its head. We've had riots in this country for a very, very long time. One of the reasons of ghettoization has been riots, where people like to stay together with their own community, is because riots have taken place for a long, long time, before partition, post-partition, during partition. So it's a reality. Don't give that logic that you can identify people and target people because they live together. The very fact there's ghettoization is because of divisions in this country for a very, very long time. So let's not be trying to be too clever by half.
It's like a chicken and egg story. Which came first?
Yes, it's discriminatory.
It's not good.
Shehzaad, please let him finish his point.
But the law has to take into all stakeholders. Shehzaad, you want to disturb me? You want to interrupt me? You can do that. It shows your upbringing, but I won't disturb you. So let me finish. Shehzaad, it's very important to understand. Yeah, you want to disturb me? Carry on disturbing me. You want to heckle me? You're showing your true colors. On one hand, you complain if people heckle you, but you do the same thing. So don't try and be holier than thou, okay? If you don't want to listen to me, I don't want to talk to you.
Okay, all right. Since we've ended that conversation because neither the representative of the BJP or the Congress wants to talk to each other, I want to go back to Rajan Bandelkar, who represents NAREDCO. NAREDCO is an industry body of developers. Rajan Bandelkar, I have two questions for you. One is, when there is a trust that buys land to say that we're going to only develop this for a particular community, that is one scenario. The second scenario is when there is a developer who buys land and then gets permission to build houses and opens it up to everyone, not specifying any specific community, but then weeds out applications as they come in. I want to understand, from representing NAREDCO, do you believe that developers should be discriminating? And if someone were to come to NAREDCO's grievance cell, is that a complaint that you all would look into?
See, no developer should discriminate, but I will tell you, this is not one way, it is both the ways. the communities, they want to stay in an area where there are majority of those people are there. For example, if you see in Masjid Bandar or Bindi Bazaar area, these one community of people are staying. The same way if you say Ghatkopar, Mulund or Borivali and this area, there is one type of community people are staying because they are more comfortable. See, when people are staying in their houses and homes in their locality, they want to be comfortable. If you ask any other community,
is that a question of comfort or is it a question of fear and mistrust, Rajan Bandelkar?
They prefer.
Is it a question of comfort or is it a question of fear and mistrust?
Yeah. Sorry?
I'm going to take that question to Swapnil Kothari.
Hello.
You know, we're going to keep talking about this, an eye for an eye. You stay in your corner, I'll stay in my corner. You behave in this manner, I'll behave in this manner. Let's segregate everything about each other. This is a question of mistrust and fear. It is not a question of comfort.
Absolutely, and in fact, it foments mistrust. It encourages bigotry. And one of the panelists pointed out about the riots aspect, and that is stretching the argument too far. And it is one-off case. Riots do not take place every day, sir, as much as this kind of discrimination takes place every day. So let's not cite riots as far as that aspect is concerned. It is as frivolous as citing this particular example of forming some sort of a mini Pakistan, because these are one-off instances and probably do not merit any attention whatsoever. So my point is, as one of the very valid points that you pointed out, Mr. Poonawala, is that we must have an affirmative law. That is absolutely imperative for the simple reason that we have these constitutional provisions of 14, 15 and 21, and then we have the Cooperative Societies Act, which talks about inclusive membership. But at the same time, we have a set of developers who build these kind of ghettos, who build these kind of silos, which you have rightly pointed out are fomenting and destroying the preambular promise of secularism. So what we need to do is we need to have a provision in RERA itself, because that is the most important legislation as far as the housing project is concerned.
I have one question to the legal minds on this panel. Very quickly, I want to ask you, according to our constitution, are we not equal? Yes. Simple question.
All Indians.
Yes. There is no discrimination. Means nobody is stopping a person to buy a house wherever he wants. But supposing somebody wants to buy a particular house, how can he be stopped?
Constitution permits discrimination within equality as well.
Of law for all Indians.
Yeah, but that discrimination is based on
so we are all equal. So we are all equal. We're all equal until I want to buy a house next to you. In which case, then we are not equal. Let me point out to you, in the state of Maharashtra, Maharashtrians are not given homes because they eat fish. Maharashtrians are not given homes in the state of Maharashtra because they eat fish. We have that on tape. I will show you the evidence. Maas machhi khate inko Marathi log nahi dete inko ghar. Now tell me, how are we all equal? Now tell me, how are we all equal? Now tell me, if you only prefer married couples, weren't all married couples single people at some point? If we live in a world where we want young people to come and work in our offices and to man the IT sector and the BPO sector and the services industry and the restaurants and the hotels and all of these places, where will they live? Where will they live? You know how difficult it is for a young person who comes in from another city to find a home?
No,
you know how difficult? One second, let me finish. I'm sure you do.
That is not a big problem.
It's not a big problem. Where will they live?
Very rare examples of it, no doubt about it.
It's not rare.
It is not a big menace.
It's not a big menace. Will you rent a house to a young person who's single?
There are, I've myself seen people staying single in many buildings together. This thing. There is no, it's not a big menace. Of course, in some cases it may be a wrong example or a very undesirable example, or in some cases some boys must have misbehaved in the building, they must have been chucked out. That is a different case. But
Mr. Chomal, Mr. Chomal, I have a question for Mr. Chomal. 1 second, Swapnil Kothari. I have a question for Mr. Chomal. You know what I dislike more than anything else in the whole world, Mr. Chomal? Tax evasion. I dislike people who don't pay their taxes because I don't believe that they're doing their due for society. I think tax evasion and stock market fraud are the worst things you can do. Which is the largest community that does tax evasion and stock market fraud?
No, if anybody is doing it, he's not doing that in his own house. He's going to his office and doing whatever share business he's doing over there. So that is from the offices that is conducting all those things, not from within the house. So you don't have to say that Gujarati, Marwadi or Jain, they are doing the stock market business from their house.
I didn't
And I
say.
think the high rates
I
of
know what
taxation
the
is
relevance
something that's
is.
abating.
I know her relevance is. It is coming out from the earlier debate which we had a few weeks back.
My point is simply this. You cannot generalize in any community. You cannot generalize in any community. We are all human. We are all Indian. That is the maximum generalization you can arrive at. Naveen Chomal. There is nothing else. There is nothing else you can generalize us about. Human, Indian. That is it. That is where it stops. And until you learn to open up your mind, we will constantly have a problem. The point is, look at the level of education and intelligence we have on this particular panel when nobody wants to live with the other person. How? You are the minds that should be leading this country into the future. How? With the arguments that you are making, will you teach the rest of the country to live in peace?
Understand what we are trying to say.
You are not trying to understand what I'm trying to say. It is not that we are distinguishing or we are justifying it. We are just trying to give the reasons what is actually existing in the society. And what yesterday Rahul Ishwar said, let us try to bridge the gaps. Let us build this together. What Mr. Ilmi was saying, I think I agree with this thing that we know what the problem is. But let us try to find some solution to it. What is the solution? Tell me the solution.
Yes, that is what I have been saying. I am not justifying that
what is the solution?
Muslims should be segregated or other non.
What is the solution?
Yes. Solution is this: let us try to form some society or group of people together who can come together.
We need to get less insular. We need to reach out to everybody else.
Yes.
But where?
Yes.
You want to form a society and you will tell me you want a society that only has vegetarians
every time on the channel just shouting, this is happening, that is happening. And
that's my job, by the way.
To say that, yes, that is because the builders are doing this because they know the reality what it is. But let us try to find a way out. Let us try to bring the bridges and bridge people together. So let us try to find a way out.
You know, Naveen Chomal comes back to the show every time, says, let us try to find a way out and build bridges between each other. But these hypothetical bridges do not exist.
So,
the truth
what is the solution? You are only trying that this is the problem, this is the problem. What is the solution?
Started right from schooling, right from schooling, from transport, traveling. We are building bridges all throughout. We are doing business with people. There is building of bridges going on. But when it comes to, I want to not have non-veg. Why is someone forcing me to have non-veg? Or forcing me or forcing me to stay in a place where they are going to be eating non-veg. You have your non-veg, no one has stopped you. But why must you come within the four corners of my building where we have decided to all of us stay together not eating non-veg?
No, I can understand if a person is having non-vegetarian in the compound of the society, not within his four walls.
To you. The very fact that nobody wants to have that kind of people here means all the people do not want non-vegetarian. It's becoming so obvious.
And there are very rare
lawyers need. We as lawyers need to push equality.
I have to, in a very disheartened manner, I have to push the close of this conversation. But I just want to point out something. We did not stop child marriage until the law told us to. We did not make dowry a social evil until the law told us to. We did not stop burning women on the funeral pyres of their husbands until the law told us that it was wrong. This is a social evil, and we will not stop until the law tells us to. It is time for us to knock on the doors of our courts and seek the wisdom of our courts on whether or not this sort of discrimination, and let's call it what it is, this sort of discrimination is truly secular, is truly Indian. Because I keep saying the same thing. The only reason why you don't want to have a gay person live in your building is because you don't know a gay person. You don't understand them. You don't know a Christian person or a Muslim person or a Gujarati person or a Jain person. You have no friends. You haven't gotten to know a transgender person. You haven't gotten to know single people. I promise you, they're lovely people. You haven't gotten to know the people from the media. I promise you that at 4 o'clock in the morning when you need help, it's the people from the media who are awake who will come to help you. You don't know because you've never bothered to reach outside of your communities. To turn around repeatedly and say, I refuse to live with anybody else, means you are small-minded, bigoted, and you discriminate. And I have just one thing to say to all of you when we close this show, and it is simply this. to a world that is not broken up into fragments by narrow domestic walls. Into that heaven of freedom, my Father, let my country awake. Thanks for watching.